heard during the interim. It was heard during the last session and was passed by this committee and also passed out by the on the Senate floor with a bipartisan vote. The bill, quite simply, is to reopen the road between the Capitol and the annex, this building we sit in. And why is this bill so important? And I've had a person or two say, well, why are you concerned about this? Isn't there more important things for the Kentucky General Assembly to do? But I'm going to make the case for you today that it's very important, and it is something that we should do. I don't take filing this bill lightly. I know I disagree with the governor and my friend, the commissioner of the state police. Had a nice chat with him before this meeting, and I had another trooper tell me, he says, when you're in trouble in the state police, he says, when you get called into the commissioner's office and there's no chair. So I'm in my chair now, Commissioner, but I have a feeling I may not have one in the future. But I do have an honest disagreement with the governor. And so I think it's important that I outline my background and the spirit in which I filed this bill. Except for my time in the Kentucky State Senate and a short time during high school and college when I worked for the Kroger Company, I've been involved in law enforcement my whole life. And it's been a very rewarding career. I go way back. I was also talking with the commissioner about our history. I go way back, class 67, which is way back in Richmond. Not year 67, but that was the number of the graduating class. The year was actually 1977. And I was in law enforcement that whole time until I was given the job by President Bush and then Attorney John Ashcraft right after 9/11 to head the U.S. Marshals Service in the Eastern District of Kentucky. For those of you who are not aware, the U.S. Marshals Service, one of their primary duties is threat assessment. We were, and as U.S. Marshal, I was in charge of the security for all the federal buildings, Covington, Ashland, Lexington, London, Pikeville. We had facilities in all those counties, and we did threat assessments on all of those. Keep in mind, this was right after 9/11, so it was a very, very tense time. And I take threat assessment very seriously. I had a top secret security clearance by the federal government during those years, and I took the job very seriously. But when we do something like close a road, like we've done now, we have to look at both sides of the issue. And I have looked at both sides of the issue very thoroughly. In fact, I wrote a letter to the governor before he ever closed the road years ago about this very issue. Why am I so passionate about it, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee? When you think about that road, and think about maybe the first time you came to the state capitol, you may not have even gotten out of your car. But one of the things I've done as state senator is I have field trips for people from my district. Typically we do one in the winter and one in the spring because people love coming down here so much. And a lot of them were senior citizens. And they would enjoy the floral clock. They would enjoy our world-class rose garden, which I know Senator Smith is so proud of, which has all the roses labeled. They would enjoy the Christmas tree, the Christmas decorations in the winter. Could enjoy all these things without even getting out of their car. Now, I'm told about the threat assessment program, which the Secret Service did several years ago, and I'm familiar with it. And I had the chance of looking it over. I've requested a copy of it because I was not given a copy several years ago. I've never gotten a copy of that threat assessment program. But as we talked about in the committee last year, that threat assessment program did give alternatives, and one of them was closing that road. But there was also other alternatives. They suggested closing several roads around the Capitol, including the road between the governor's mansion and the Capitol, the road on the other side, and putting in checkpoints. I think those are good, reasonable suggestions. And I applaud what we've done on this road where we're putting up barricades, so it's harder now to drive a vehicle off the roadway if someone was going to try to ram one of the buildings. If you notice, I noticed things like that. There's now barricades on both sides of the road. And we've put in temporary closing so we can very quickly close that road. And that's appropriate. But to unilaterally close a road that is so vital to the public and their understanding of how our state government works, I think is a big mistake. If there's a reason to close that road, my bill provides for that, and it can be done very quickly. But I ask you to pass this bill out onto the Senate floor, and I'm hoping this year maybe the House will take a look at it.
We have a motion on the bill and a second, but before we proceed any further, the Commissioner invite him up to speak. Commissioner Burnett, welcome to the committee. Certainly appreciate all that you do and all your officers. It's an honor to have you here today. The floor is yours, but please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Yes, I'm Colonel Philip Burnett, Jr., the Commissioner of Kentucky State Police, and thank you, Chairman and members of the committee, for having me here today and letting me speak on Senate Bill 75. And also thank you, Senator Schickel. The reason why I'm here is in my position with Kentucky State Police, and where Kentucky State Police, where we provide safety for the Capitol Annex campus. The Capitol, the Annex, and also at the Governor's Mansion, we consider that one campus or complex. And with that, we take that very seriously about the safety of these grounds. I think no one here would disagree that probably these grounds here dealing with government in Kentucky, there's no more important buildings than is right here, dealing with the three branches of government. And with that, we consistently look at trying to improve safety for these grounds. And as we know, things have changed, things have evolved in years dealing with safety of governmental buildings and other institutions. So that's why we're consistently going out and we talk with some of our federal partners that have maybe a more refined, more in-depth analysis of such security initiatives. I know in 2001, after 9/11, Secret Service did do an assessment of these grounds, and one of their recommendations was the closure of the roadway between this annex building and the Capitol. And the reason for that is because it's so accessible to where if they were to have the opportunity, someone to have some sort of ill intent, that they could drive a vehicle loaded with explosives right up near one of these buildings and detonate it. That compromises the security of our constitutional officers, of our legislators, of our personnel that work in these buildings, just in day-to-day operations. We're all aware of what happened at the Murrell building in Oklahoma City and what occurred there. So we see this as a safety assessment, but not only for that, but there's multiple things that are occurrences that occur on these grounds. The area between the annex and the Capitol, that's considered a protest area if we have protesters come in to do their lawful protest. So if you have that roadway open and they're gathered, and then that makes the opportunity of someone with ill intent to use a vehicle as an assault weapon, or it could wind up being deadly. And we have seen instances like that occur across the country, one specifically in Charlottesville, Virginia. And not only to protect our protesters that's doing a lawful assembly, but counter-protesters and any other entities that may be in that area. Also, is pedestrian traffic has increased between these two outside. And the reason why is because of another security safety initiative that we started was to limit public access of the tunnel between the annex and the Capitol. That just become a choke point, and that become not very safe for foot traffic to go in between the two buildings. So you have all those entities there. But you also have another survey that was done by Federal Homeland Security, a security and resilience report that was conducted in June of 2021. It also, on top of the Secret Service security assessment, recommended closure of that roadway and to install barriers, bollards, those type things to be able to limit vehicle traffic in between that roadway. So with that, that's why we did the barriers that was mentioned here earlier, or planters, to make those aesthetic for the grounds to still look as good as they are. But it also is a barrier to keep vehicles through there. The bollards could be removed if we had to have those removed for KSP can do that in an emergency situation, as well as Frankfort Fire and Emergency Services. But also with those planters and those barriers, Lord forbid we were to have an active shooter, we could use those as cover areas. That is very limited in those areas. With this, in our discussion, in our consistent looking and analysis of these grounds, we made this recommendation. In June, I think it was September the 15th of 2021, we met with LRC leadership, we met with Senate leadership and House leadership of our recommendations and what we would like to do. Install these bollards and as well as the barriers to be able to limit vehicle traffic for those issues that I just talked about. And they were no objections to that. And also we received funding from the General Assembly to do some security upgrades. And some of that was included in that, those bollards, those barriers, as well as some enhancement in security cameras, working on more of the visitor management system. So there was money put forth for some of that too. And because, we take this personally, and as an agency, because the state police, we are required to provide the most safest environment we can for these grounds and for everyone here. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak today and to be able to discuss, the reasoning that we asked for those to occur, how that we have, how we've implemented those, and I guess I'm open for any questions.
Excuse me, Senator Mills, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, just a question. You're talking about safety and the possibility of driving up through with explosives and things of that nature. I think it's important to think about what the next 3 or 4 years is going to bring us on this campus. We're currently funneling traffic through the back parking lot that's not a safe access area where 2 cars can pass. The cars will be funneled right by what my understanding is the new is going to be a temporary meeting space for the Senate and the House. So you're actually bringing traffic closer to the top of that parking garage to bring it, to make a dangerous situation as well. I think you may want to think about that. If this bill does or doesn't pass, you may want to think about opening that road back up to bring some of the traffic away from the temporary structures that are going to be there over the next 3 or 4 years while we renovate the Capitol.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Senator Williams.
We have the bollards. We spent the money for them. If it were open, is there anything this Senator Schickel's bill that would prevent you from closing it during the kind of activity, protest, or gathering that you talked about? We could close it. Is there anything in this bill that would prevent you from employing them then?
Not that I'm aware of for those specific instances, but it wouldn't necessarily take those things we have of concern that of outside special events that we would worry about.
But you could close it during any special event.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Commissioner, seeing no further questions, excuse me. Senator Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess the follow-up question, commissioners from my hometown, and anything I say is just strictly legislatively. So that road could it not be, as just a follow-up? So when we get moved over here across the street, as Senator said, couldn't we put somebody to limit that to personnel that have a right to come through there at least? Because it's going to really be a traffic jam, I think, whenever that new building is constructed. And even if it had to be somebody IDing staff, legislators and that to help the traffic flow, and then you could lock it down. I think it's going to have you've got a gate that you could lock it down when you needed to, if you needed to do it in a hurry, couldn't you, Mr. Commissioner?
Well, the problem there in a perfect world, if we were able to fully staff our security forces over here, but we're in excess of 20 vacancies right now, just because we're not able to hire everyone to fill a full contingent. So we're really having to shuffle resources around just to have enough, make sure that we have personnel here on the inside of the building and some of the roving patrols to be able to do that. So that would be an issue to have someone to staff those checkpoints.
Okay, I understand that, but if we funded that or got somebody, I'm talking about during the hours of the day when it's going to be really bad for the legislators and all the staff to get in here with that new building building never taking up so many parking places and what. That's what I'm asking. If you could it be, and then you could shut it down when you needed to with the gate, so that it make it easier during the time period, rush hour in the morning and things like that. That's the reason I'm just asking this now while you're here, and we kind of need to have an open discussion about all this.
Well, I'm not for sure how that would work with the gate, but I do know just the personnel as of right now, that'd be very difficult for us the way our current staffing levels are.
All right. Thank you for being here today. I hope you didn't have to travel all the way from Harlan this morning, but I've known him all my practicing life pretty much. So thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator.
Commissioner, seeing no further questions, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your service to the Commonwealth, and thanks to your officers that put their life on the line every day across the state. And thank you for the security that you provide here at the Capitol and at the Annex. And we appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we appreciate all the support of Kentucky State Police. Thank you.
Senator Schickel, you want to come back to the table? Any questions for Senator Schickel?
I do.
You have a question for yourself?
No, I just wanted to address just a couple of things, if I could, that were said, but maybe that's unnecessary. I'll just be quiet.
Okay, we thank you, Senator Schickel. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no more questions, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Senator Berg.
Explain my vote, please. I vote no, and I'm sorry, sir, but when Homeland Security and RKSP all tell us this is a dangerous place to let trucks through and park, I'm going to believe them. And I know this is sort of new for us in the United States. We're not used to having to have buildings that are designed so that you can't blow up trucks outside of them. But this isn't new for many places in the world. And I'm very, very familiar and very, very comfortable with these type of structures. So I agree. I would love to be able to drive through, but for security purposes, sir, I think these barriers need to stay where they are, and honestly belong there. Thank you.
Senator Carpenter. Senator Mills.
Vote and explain.
Yes.
Okay, I vote aye. And I'm very uncomfortable with the street being closed. I think we've created an unsafe situation in the parking lots, in the upper parking lots, and pulling through by routing traffic through that way. I think that this would serve the folks that want to come to the Capitol and view and be guests better if they could pull through the road as it was prior to it being closed. Thank you.
Senator Smith. Senator Storm. Senator Turner.
Please proceed.
I'm voting aye because I think the whole Senate needs to have an opportunity to vet this thing in the House, because there is as I've said earlier in my question, I believe there's going to be a traffic jam, and we'll sure hire enough employees for the state police to have additional people out there to protect us. But I think it does need to be vetted. It needs to get out on the floor so we can have a full discussion because of our limitations that's coming with this building process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wheeler.
Aye.
Senator Williams.
Aye.
Senator Wilson. Senator Yates.
Explain my no vote.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't like the inconvenience either. I don't. And I do wish in a perfect world that we would not have to have these type of barriers and safety protections. I visited Oklahoma City. I've seen the destruction there. Been places when we travel outside the country. I try not to make sure when I ask the commissioner and our state police, when I say thank you for your service, thank you for what you do, I think I have to do that based on support. So when you come and you've testified and said, I need this to keep you safe. When you come and with Homeland Security says, we need this to keep you safe. And then we get it in the budget, we put it in place, and now we're here taking it away, and you're saying, please don't take this away because I need this to keep you safe. I have a tough time trying to make my second guess in it. As an attorney, I know a lot of attorneys in the room, we have clients who come in and go, hey, I think this is the law, and this is how you should argue this, and this because it makes sense. But what I always ask is say, if I'm the expert in this situation, we should rely on the experts. If the Homeland Security, if the commissioner of the Kentucky State Police have done this and said, I need this, not just about us in this room, but all these employees that we're responsible for. If they say we need this to keep you safe, then I'm gonna have to back you up. So I'm a no vote.
Chairman Higdon.
Aye. The bill passes. Senate Bill 75 is reported favorably with the expression of opinion that same shall pass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Our next bill is Senate Bill 46, Senator Elkins. Senator Elkins, welcome to Transportation Committee. I assume you've done this many times so far.
I've done it several. This will be number one.
Somehow I knew that. The floor is yours. Please identify yourself for the record and please proceed.
I am Senator Greg Elkins, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of this committee. I'm here today to present Senate Bill 46. I was first approached about this issue by a 23-year veteran of the Kentucky State Police. And as I was researching this issue, I've spoken with window tint professionals, police officers, and constituents, and I find that in many cases, we already have a tint on our windshield. It's just not legal yet. But this bill simply adds one sentence to KRS 189.110, and it states, sunscreening material or other products or materials applied to the windshield when used in conjunction with the safety glazing material of the windshield, if it is a light transmittance of not less than 70% and is not red or yellow in color. It's a pretty simple bill, and what that will do is to allow us to put in the state of Kentucky to put a tint on the windshield that is 70% light transmittance, not less than. And a 70% light transmittance is a very light option of tint. It even appears clear in many cases, as most people look at it. There are three primary benefits to tinting our windshield. First, a 70% tint will eliminate 99% of the sun's ultraviolet rays, helping to protect our skin, our eyes, and the interior of our car, which will reduce cracking and fading. Second, the tint option of 70% reduces the sun's infrared energy by 60%, keeping the inside of the vehicle cooler in the summertime and causing our air conditioners to work less. Finally, a 70% tint option would dramatically reduce glare from the sun and glare from bright headlamps, especially these ever-increasing number and brightness LED lights that we all struggle with at night. This bill would put us more in line with the federal regulation 49 CFR 393.60, which also allows a 70% tint option on our windshields. There are 3 states that have already done this. Ohio, North Dakota, and Hawaii all already have passed this bit of legislation. So I'm here today to ask you to consider and pass Senate Bill number 46 out of committee. And with that, I will take questions.
We have a motion on the bill and a second. We have a question. Senator Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Real quickly, do you know, do consumers have to be careful that they get the right coating to protect them from UV radiation, or just any old coating does it?
Any tint of 70% will reduce by 99% the UVA and UVB rays. There are a couple of different kinds of tint, ceramic and film. Either will do so. What you find is the tint that comes on your side windows from the factory, it's a little darker than 70%, but it is because it's embedded in the glass, it doesn't provide UV protection. The film or the ceramic does. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Senator Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had a number of questions about this with you, but for the clarity of the public and everybody, you go kind of fast, but it applies to windshields only. Is that
That's correct.
We're not
Windshields
talking
only.
about the tinted on the side. That's the fear a lot of people had, so I'm just making that clear. So windshields only that you're talking about.
Yeah, the tint on the side windows, you have 2 different types of tint or colors of tint that you can use on the darkness of tint that you can use on the side windows. The front passenger and driver's side is 35%, which is pretty light. And then the back windows, I think maximum is 18%, which gets a little darker. And so this windshield is 70%. It will allow you to tint not at all, 80%, 88%, or 70%. Just we're saying 70% is the darkest that you could tint, which if you're not looking at it beside a clear piece of glass, really looks clear. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Seeing no further questions, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Carpenter. Senator Mills. Senator Smith. Senator Storm.
Aye.
Senator Turner. Senator Wheeler.
Aye.
Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Yates. Chairman Hickton.
Aye. Congratulations, Senator Elkins, on your first bill officially passed out of committee for you. So good luck on the Senate floor with it.
I'm batting 1,000 so far. I'll take it. So, thank you, Mr.
Bill
Chairman.
passes. Senate
Thank you.
Bill 46 is reported favorably with expressions of opinion that same shall pass. Thank you. Next up is Senate Bill 125 relating to off-highway vehicles. Senator Wheeler, the floor is yours. If you would identify yourself for the record and please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Philip Wheeler, 31st Senate District. Senate Bill 125 was previously Senate Bill 75 till Senator Schickel stole my number. You all have heard it a couple times. Heard it a couple of times before. This was the pilot project bill that was passed 3 years ago during session for ATV tourism that allows for certain state roads to be designated by the Transportation Cabinet at the request of county, city, and local governments for ATV use. Requires certain specifications for the vehicles, safety specifications. It also requires, insurance for vehicles operated upon the roadway. It was passed as a pilot project 3 years ago. I think transportation had a little bit more difficult time promulgating the regulations than we hoped. They only finished them, I think, at the end of March of this past year, so we really didn't get an opportunity to utilize the program. All this is doing is extending this pilot project out for another 3 years. It does have one substantive change. I think the original bill limited it to the counties and the Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority. Due to some inquiries from some of my colleagues in the western part of the state where ATV tourism is also becoming popular, we made a small change to say that any county or city or local government throughout the entire state may request the roads to be designated.
Motion on bill.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further questions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Byrd. Senator Carpenter. Senator Mills. Senator Smith. Senator Storm.
Aye.
Senator Turner.
That's not it. No.
Senator Wheeler.
Aye.
Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Yates. Chairman Higdon.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senate Bill 125 does pass. So Senate Bill 125 will be reported favorably with the expression of opinion that same shall pass. Thank you, sir. I have to get, let me see, make sure I got everything here. Okay, all right. Next on the agenda is Senate Bill 107. That'd be my bill, so Chairman Storm, will you take over, please? And
Absolutely, Senator Higdon. Chairman Higdon. As Chairman pointed out, next on the agenda is Senate Bill 107, an act relating to transportation and making an appropriation thereof, sponsored by Senator Higdon. There's an amendment in the committee sub. I gotta get those through.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you. Senate Bill 107 is kind of a catch-all bill. It's got several items in it. Section 1 and 2 change the registration fee for overweight vehicles.
Motion on the sub.
We've got a, Senator, just for just a moment, we have a proposed committee sub. Would you like to adopt that?
Yes.
I'd entertain a motion. We have a motion. Second. We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Substitute is adopted. We also have a committee amendment. That committee amendment is docket ID number 3821 to the substitute in the members' packets. I'll also entertain a motion on the committee amendment. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The committee amendment to the substitute is adopted. Senator Higdon, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sections 1 and 2 change the registration fee for overweight vehicles over 44,000 pounds to include the $30 registration fee to the county clerks. Currently, for the big trucks, they go online and electronically license their vehicles with the Transportation Cabinet, but they have to make a special trip into the county clerk to pay this $30 additional fee. So what this does, it charges them $30 more what they send to the cabinet, and the cabinet sends the $30 to the county clerk. It eliminates a trip to the county clerk for these busy folks. Section 3, a person shall not operate a truck, trailer, or semi-trailer or semi-trailer in the leftmost lane, except when entering or leaving a highway. What that is, Kentucky has been. We've worked diligently, unlike Tennessee and some other states to the south of us. When you go through Kentucky on I-75, 90% of it is 6-lane, 3 lanes on each side, and all of I-65 is 6 lanes from the Indiana border all the way to Tennessee. So what this does, it prevents 3 trucks from running down the road side by side. It only allowed truckers to use the first 2 lanes. They will not be able to use the 3rd lane, and I know some of you all have seen that. Anyway, Section 4, a towing company shall provide a current rate sheet to the nearest Department of Kentucky State Police post, and that rate sheet is important. If a towing company fails to comply with any of the provisions, Kentucky State Police shall remove that towing company from the record log for a period of 6 months for the first offense and a year for any additional offenses. Section 5 and 6 allows a weight exemption for any vehicle which is equipped with an auxiliary power unit. The weight limits set forth in KRS 189-222 shall be increased by 400 pounds if you have one of these auxiliary units. Basically what that is a generator that will power the truck's heating and cooling and TVs or hot water heater, whatever they have in the cab. And the vehicle that way does not have to idle while they're at rest. And so that's a lot of states have passed that, so this puts it in statute here. Section 7 amends KRS 75-450, which allow fire departments to charge for a response to emergency call. If there's extenuating circumstances, then additional charges may apply, but the cap on the charges, it raises from $500 to $1,000, and that's reasonable. Section 8 through 12 adds language to allow the cabinet to change the following fees through administrative regs. And I gave you a sheet, all these fees. The one I think that needs the most attention is the last one, overweight, overdimensional superload. Kentucky's charging $60 for that. If you look, Illinois is charging $1,400. Indiana, $2,500. Tennessee, $3,500. These are loads that go through the state.
Motion on the bill.
It's a thank you.
We have a motion on the bill as amended by the substitute and the committee amendment. We have a second. Madam Secretary, are there any questions? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Berg,
Explain my vote, please. I vote yes, and I just want to thank you, sir, for the detail and the attention, and honestly, the fact that I have no reservations whatsoever. Thank you, and yes.
Thank you.
Senator Carpenter, Senator Higdon,
Aye.
Senator Mills,
Explain my vote.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I vote aye. I have a couple. I've got to check out the part on that deals with the metal commodities some more and make sure that doesn't detrimentally affect the aluminum smelters in my area of the state. But it's a good bill. Get trapped behind plenty of semis on I-64. So thank you.
Senator Smith, aye. Senator Turner, aye. Senator Wheeler,
Explain my aye vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of the bill, keeping the trucks out of the left lane.
Senator Williams,
Aye.
Senator Wilson, Senator Yates,
Aye.
Chairman Storm.
Aye. Senate Bill 107 is reported favorably with the expression of opinion that same should pass with the committee substitute and committee amendment attached thereto. I'll entertain a motion to roll the substitute and the committee amendment into a new substitute.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The committee amendment to the substitute is adopted. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.